It is indeed my pleasure to warmly welcome Governor Cuomo back to his second home in Rochester, New York. We are thankful that he decided to come deliver more good news to Rochester after releasing his budget. Before we get started, let me recognize a few of our special guests who have joined us here today. We have RIT's President Bill Dessler. We have SUNY Brockport President Heidi McPherson. SUNY REOC Executive Director Roosevelt Marius. Ontario County Board of Supervisors Chairman Jack Marin. Brighton Town Supervisor Bill Maley. Irondequoit Town Supervisor Dave Seeley. Rochester City Councilwoman Elaine Spall. Minority Leader in the Monroe County Legislature Cindy Cayley. Monroe County Legislator Lachey Harris. Jenny Clark from Constellations Brand is here as well. Let's welcome all of our special guests. Over the last 6 years, Governor Cuomo has transformed the state's approach to economic development. And by doing so, he has transformed upstate New York, and in particular, the Finger Lakes region and Rochester. His regionally focused bottom-up strategy allowed us to capitalize on our assets. It allowed us to leverage the expertise of our business, education, and governmental leaders to move Rochester forward. And today, as a result of his efforts, we are seeing results all around us. More jobs, lower unemployment, safer and more vibrant neighborhoods, and better educational opportunities for all. Government works best when they work together, and City Hall is fortunate to have a strong partner and friend in Governor Cuomo. The budget he unveiled will bring much-needed opportunities across our state, from free community college tuition to healthcare and housing opportunities to investment in businesses. And yes, we are very hopeful that we will finally get ride sharing in upstate New York. But today, he's here to talk about some more good news for our city. So I want to thank you, Governor, for investing in Rochester. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Danny Wegman, a great friend and leader in our Rochester community.
Thank you, Mayor, and good day, everyone. Nice to be with you. Now, we're here to talk about the future of economic growth and the budget to promote it. Let me tell you quickly about my job, the Regional Economic Development Council. What the governor said to us 6 years ago was that you folks know your region better than anyone in Albany. So you tell us what you want to do and we'll support it. And that's what he's done. In the last 2 years ago, we won $500 million. Not bad. This year we won another top prize on top of that, which I think, Ginny, was it 70 million? 70 million. 80. See, it's even getting better. Anyway, so you're probably wondering, where does this money go? What does it do? Well, the governor gave us 3 priorities: economic growth, jobs, and to do something about poverty. Well, it just so happened that in this region, one of the areas that we've chosen to develop was agriculture and food processing. Well, these end up being great jobs for people in poverty. They don't require a PhD. They require hard work and a stick-to-itiveness, and you can do great. And we've had some wonderful companies come in. We've had Pride Packaging. We've had American Packaging, Genesee Beer, not far away, and many more. And these are just great jobs for the task of helping people with poverty. Now, on the other side of the ledger, we have some very great universities here, like RIT, like the University of Rochester, like Brockport, like others. And what they do is they turn out great students, great scientists. And so we've got this reservoir of talent. And I think that's why we got the photonics thing, because we are a great place to come if you're trying to find people to work on that. Now, I know you're probably saying, oh, that photonics thing, that was a problem. It's just a bump in the road, folks. And if you can't solve bumps in the road, you shouldn't be on the road. We're going to do great. Believe me. We're off to a good start. We're ready to go. And we're going to be the home of photonics in the U.S., maybe the world. No governor has been so supportive of upstate New York. No governor has brought us together like this to be one community. I'm really honored and proud to introduce our governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What a pleasure to be back in Rochester. Just a little snow, just to make me feel right at home. But it is a pleasure to be back. It's always a pleasure to be back. First, to your great mayor. Mayors make a tremendous difference, and you have one of the nation's best in Mayor Warren. Let's give her a round of applause. Danny Wegman, he is the total package. He's a successful businessman, he's a great citizen, he's a philanthropist, and his leadership, his guidance, his effort has been really instrumental in bringing the success to the REDC. So let's give him a round of applause. President McPherson, thank you very much for having us. To Bill Dessler, going to retire at 21 years old. Huh, Bill? Well, you really have been an inspiration. You've been a pioneer. You were there before anyone else. You believed before anyone else. We're glad you're not going far, but we're going to miss you. Bill Dessler, thank you very much for your great contribution. This is the beginning of the year. We're still on the New Year's resolution phase. We hope. But in the beginning of the year, the governor lays out the state of the state, president lays out the state of the union. It's an overall vision, and then you deliver the budget. And the budget really are the details, the numbers about what you want to do. And in some ways, the detail is more informative because the numbers separate the rhetoric from the reality. And I presented the budget to the legislature. The legislature has now responded. And we now know what the debate is and what the terms of the debate will be. And that's actually a good thing. Because we know what the issues are, we know the frame of the issues, and we know what we have to resolve to move forward. I did a different approach on the state of the state this year, which worked out very well. Many times the state of the state is a speech given in Albany by the governor, and he gives the speech to the legislature. But that's really not where we are anymore as a state. The role of the state government is much more expanded than it's been in the past. State government historically stayed in Albany. You dealt with the legislature. They passed bills, they passed budgets, or they didn't pass budgets and didn't pass bills. But that was state government. We have a much more activist involved state government. We have been working with regions all across the state. And we are intimately involved in regional growth patterns all across the state. So the state of the state this year was region by region, all across the state. Rochester's different than Albany, is different than the North Country, is different than Long Island. There is no one size fits all. And this is not your father's state government that sits in Albany and deals with the legislature. That's only one part of my job. My job really is working region by region to grow the economy and make sure we're meeting their needs. And the budget is like that also. The budget has certain statewide ramifications, but it also has regional ramifications. And I wanted to talk to you about that today. And I wanted to inform you of the status of the debate and what I think and what they think. And maybe you'll be so inclined to weigh in at the end of the day, because it really is about you. And you have representatives in the Senate and representatives in the Assembly, but they do their job best when they hear from you. Little context, we have had a very active few years for the state government. It's been functioning better than before. I think you'd have to go back to FDR and Robert Moses to find a time when the state government has done as much as we have done. We've accomplished a lot. We've passed meaningful legislation that were national firsts. This was the first big state to pass marriage equality before the Supreme Court told us that it was the law. We knew that it was the law, and more importantly, we knew it was the right thing to do. We raised the minimum wage. We passed paid family leave. We passed common sense gun control. And this state really has been the progressive leader once again. We've also built more, developed more than has been built in a long, long time. And fundamentally, we changed the direction of the state. The arrows are pointed in the right direction. Jobs are going up. Taxes are going down. And that's the way it should be. And we did that by bringing two basic lessons to Albany. The first was manage government finances like they were your own. I say to legislators all day long when they come, they say, I have a great idea, $10 million, and we can make this group happy. I said, if you had $10 million, would you spend your $10 million to make the group happy? You know, there's a mentality that taxpayers' money is nobody's money, right? And it's easy to spend someone else's money. Mentality has to be, it's your money. You know, we are all inherently cheap. I'm cheap, right? We shop, we clip coupons, we look for bargains, right? Be that way with taxpayers' money. And that's the mentality that we have in Albany now. And Albany needed it. For years, Albany was spending at a higher rate than the income of the people in the state was going up. Let me say that again because it sort of defies logic. The government was spending more money at a higher rate than the incomes of the people were going up. That's why people felt that the taxes were so oppressive and that government was taking such a big piece of the paycheck, because it was. Simple logic is you can't spend more than people are making. And this goes back 50 years. Nelson Rockefeller, governor in the 60s, 11% more every year. You then had Hugh Carey, 7.9% every year. This is over a period of time where inflation was 4%. My father, 6.9%. George Pataki, 5.2%. But inflation is 4%, which means your income is going up about 4%. Your home value is going up about 4%. But the state is spending more than that every year. The other thing interesting about this is it defies all the political myths. Well, Democrats, they're tax and spend. But Republicans, they are good with the budget and they don't spend much money. Really? Nelson Rockefeller, big Republican, big, largest spender over the past 50 years. Hugh Carey, Democrat, Mario Cuomo, Democrat. George Pataki, Republican conservative, 5.2%. The spending was too high for all of them. We came in 6 years ago, our budget over 6 years, 1.4% more every year. Dramatically different. When the spending is low, good things happen, right? You're on a diet. When the caloric intake is low, good things happen. It's a simple formula at the end of the day. Eat less, exercise more. Spend less, good things happen. The equation, the formula is simple. The implementation is difficult, but the formula is simple. When spending is down on the state level, then good things happen. You can invest in economic development, which we have, and you can cut taxes, which you have because you're spending less money. And we have cut taxes all across the board in the state of New York. Every person in this state pays a lower tax rate today than the day I got elected. Every person. Second lesson we brought to Albany was that Upstate matters. And Bob Duffy's not here today, so I can say it, because I don't like to say good things in front of him, because he takes it to heart. He was mayor of Rochester. He said, we need help. I said, if you need help, come with me to Albany as the lieutenant governor, because that's where we can get help. Because we have to say to that state government, hello, there's a place called Upstate New York, and we need your help, because they had turned a blind eye for too long. It was decades of neglect for Upstate New York, when Upstate New York actually needed the help, because they were going through an economic transformation, manufacturing was moving out, and they needed to make a transition, and nobody was there to help them. We changed that. We invested in the upstate economy. We invested over $25 billion through the Regional Economic Development Councils that Danny Wegman was talking about, and that made a difference. It changed the cycle of decline, and you actually see that it's working. Today, New York State has 7.9 million jobs, more private sector jobs than have ever existed in the history of the state of New York. That's what 7.9 million jobs are. Unemployment goes from 8.4% down to 4.9%. And the best thing is the success is all across the state. In the old days, the downstate economy would do well, but the upstate economy would stay stagnant. Look at those numbers. All across the state, you see a drop in unemployment. 22,000 new jobs here in the Finger Lakes region. And it didn't just happen. It didn't just happen. It happened because we had a deliberate strategy. We invested. And good people like Danny Wegman came to the table and they made it happen. $506 million in the REDC has been invested. $500 million in the URI has been invested under the Finger Lakes Forward Plan. $240 million in transportation money in I-390, $40 million to build a new airport, which is sorely needed, but it's $40 million. We just invested in Datto, which is one of the great success stories. It's a company that we started here and is going great, the Center for Urban Entrepreneurship. You total that up, it's a $1.3 billion investment, but it's an investment that is reaping dividends. When people are creating jobs, that is an investment in the state, and those jobs create revenues, et cetera. And Rochester's growing and Upstate is growing. And the best evidence is young people are moving back. Young people are moving back. It used to break my heart. You'd go through the airports in upstate New York, and you'd see parents saying goodbye to a child. Why? Because the jobs were somewhere else, the future was somewhere else, and the child was going somewhere else to start their life. It is turning around, and young people are coming home. Now, that's the good news. We've made a lot of progress. But we have a lot more to do, especially for our middle class. You look at what happened in that presidential election, and not to talk politics, but the one thing that you saw was we have a lot of middle class people who are unhappy and who feel that they are getting passed over, and they came out and vented big time. And they're right. Middle class in terms of real wages is where they were 20 years ago. And everything else has gone up. And you can't afford it, and you feel like you're going backwards, and what's worse, you feel like your children's future is not going to be better than your own. And that was the fundamental equation. You come, you work hard, you do well, but your child gets an education and your child does better. That dream is slipping away. And that's what we need to talk to this year. We need to talk to the middle class and the working men and women of the state of New York, and we're focusing on a middle class agenda that does it all across the board, from property taxes to income taxes to affordability. I propose cutting middle class taxes for 6 million taxpayers. You know why? The best way to reach the middle class and the fastest way is to say, we're going to take less from you in terms of taxes. You're under economic stress. We understand. We'll help. We'll cut the state tax, and we'll help make that burden lighter. I want to go from 6.85 to 5.5 and to 6 to cut taxes for every family from $40,000 to $300,000 in the state of New York. And I think that's a great first step. Second, and this is going to be a main point of discussion, there's something called the millionaire's tax in the state. It went into place a few years ago, which is a tax for people who make individuals 1 million or families 2 million or more. It expires this year. It would drop the millionaire's tax rate from 8.85 to 6.85. If that happened, the cost to the state would be $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion is all the money in the world on the state budget. It is literally all the disposable money. It would decimate the budget. It would cause us to cut everything across the board, from education to transportation. Forget the middle class tax cut because you couldn't afford any of it. My proposal is to extend the millionaire's tax drop. Now, it doesn't increase taxes on millionaires. It just continues the same rate, which is a lower rate than the day I was elected. But it would continue that rate. I believe cutting taxes is very important. I've done it almost every year. I believe it sends a bad signal to raise taxes, and I believe we've sent that signal too many times for too many years, and it gave us a bad reputation. But in this economy, we can't be cutting taxes for millionaires and still do what we need to do. And this is going to be a main point of conversation. I also want to attack the real tax problem in the state, which is property taxes. This chart is important. State income tax, $1,800 on average. Property taxes, $4,700 on average. When they talk about taxes and the burden of taxes in the state of New York, that's what they're talking about. And this is unique to New York. We have some of the highest property taxes in the United States of America. Downstate, Westchester, Nassau, literally by dollars, the highest amount of taxes. Upstate, by percentage of home value, the highest taxes in the United States of America. That, my friends, is the #1 problem that this state has to deal with. And it's not a new problem. It goes back to FDR, used to rant and rave about it. Why? Because we have so many local governments in this state. Over 10,000 local governments. And they are just expensive to operate. We passed something called the property tax cap a few years ago that capped the growth at 2%, which made a major difference and saved people money. Overall, it saved $16 billion. But it just capped the growth. It did nothing to reduce it. We want to take it the next step this year. You take a county like Monroe, 624 local governments. In one county, 624 local governments. The question is, how do those 624 local governments work together to find cooperation, to find efficiency, to find shared services? 624, imagine this was a private corporation, and you had 624 offices in one county. You wouldn't have every office do everything. Every office buys its own cars, every office does its own HR, does its own purchasing. You would consolidate certain functions, share services so you could do it more efficiently. Why does government have to be so inefficient? It doesn't have to be. You look at the Bible, it says nothing about inefficient government, Old Testament or New Testament. I don't care what you believe in. You can actually find efficiencies among government. What we want to do is empower the county executive to bring together all 624 governments and put them in one room and say, let's find efficiencies. We all buy police cars. How about we buy police cars together and we combine the purchasing power? We all buy these very heavy-duty specialized equipment, road paving equipment, $600,000 per truck. Maybe we can share equipment. Maybe we can share purchasing departments. Just go through the basic exercise that every business would go through, and by the way, every family had to go through. Find ways to save money. They come up with a plan, they put the plan on the ballot. You vote on it this November. If you accept it, God bless. If you don't accept it, they go back in the room and they come back with another plan. But it's about reducing property taxes, which is number one, and letting the people decide whether or not they did a good enough job, which is what it's all about. We get a hold of property taxes. We change dramatically the trajectory of the state, and you'll see growth that you thought was unimaginable. Next issue in the budget is education, and I think this is a place where New York can lead once again. A generation ago, you had a high school diploma, and you could figure it out. You could work in the plant, you could drive a truck, but you could figure it out with a high school diploma. But that was a generation ago. Now you need college, and we all tell the young people that. The problem is college is extraordinarily expensive. Average debt for a young person coming out of college now, $29,000. That's average debt. That's public schools, private schools, et cetera, $29,000. That's what a mortgage used to be, except you don't have a house. So it's much easier said than done. The move should be to free public colleges for everyone. Why? It's in the best interest of this nation and of this state and of the individual. This country at one time had the most college graduates of any country on the planet. Today, we're number 11. When I'm trying to bring businesses to New York, you know what they ask me? How educated is your workforce? It's all here now. I was in an engine building plant, a General Motors engine building plant outside of Buffalo. Now, this is an engine building plant, $300 million expansion to building car engines. Went through the whole plant. You know the one thing I never saw? Any tools. In an engine building plant, no wrenches, no screwdrivers, no tools. It's all automated. And every 20 feet there's a computer terminal and someone troubleshooting the machines. It's all here. It's all college, it's all education. We should get there first. I want to take our SUNY schools, our public schools, and say free tuition for any family, $125,000 and below. Really, I'd like to get to a point where we could offer free college the way we offer free high school, and we offer free K till 12. And I believe one day the country will be there. But at least say for families who can't afford it, who are struggling, $125,000 free tuition to a SUNY school. We'd be the first state in the nation to do it. And I believe the other states will follow. That is 10,000 families in Rochester. 96% of the families in Rochester would qualify. Just think of that. 55,000 families in the Finger Lakes region. We have great SUNY schools right here. You wouldn't have to leave home, or you could go to a SUNY school anywhere in the state. We have an education budget in the state of $30 billion, okay? This program would cost $163 million. With that kind of budget, this is a great, great investment. And what I love most about it is it restores the dream, right? It says to every child who puts their head on the pillow at night, you can be anything you want to be. You can be a success. I don't care if you grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, or mom and dad don't have money, or there is no mom, or there is no dad. I don't care if you're poor. You can go to college, and we're going to make sure you can. And you give an entire generation hope that may not have it. And you can change their behavior, you can change their expectations, you can change their self-esteem. Driving the economy, we've been investing in infrastructure, largest investment in infrastructure in the state's history, $100 billion all across the state, $593 million for roads and bridges in the Finger Lakes region. Over the next 5 years, $389 for Monroe County, $26 million for the city of Rochester, and it is an investment. We have a program to protect manufacturing jobs. That's where we're feeling a lot of the pain. It's 5% of all jobs in the state, and we're losing them. I want to have the most aggressive Buy American program in the United States, where our state shows a preference on any contract over $100,000 for American-made products. We want to continue to invest in upstate New York. Those REDCs are doing a great job. $4.6 billion has been awarded, and it's created over 210,000 jobs. I want to continue it with another round of REDC awards, $750 million, because upstate matters. We learned that lesson, and we learned that if we invest, we will continue to grow. To grow more jobs, ride sharing is an important part of the new innovation economy. It really is. It gives people options. It's a safer way of transportation for many people in certain situations. New York City has it. It's not legal in upstate New York. It is unfair, and you can't justify allowing it in New York City, but not allowing it in upstate New York. We've made it a priority in the budget because it's only right that we pass it for upstate New York, and we want to do it this year. We've made great investments in tourism. We've increased the tourism budget about $150 million, which is a lot of money. That's the I Love New York ads, I Love New York signs. We invested $150 million. Visitor spending went up $9 billion, okay? If we could do that, I would do that all day long. It's big business. It's especially big business in upstate. It's one of the largest single drivers of the upstate economy. 60,000 jobs in the Finger Lakes region from tourism. I want to continue to build on it. What's happening is when people come see upstate and see what we have here and the beauty, they come back and they come back and they come back. We just have to keep it going. That's what the Finger Lakes Regional Welcome Center is all about at the current Geneva Visitor Center. It will be a welcome center that can introduce visitors to the assets of the region, the history, etc. We want to continue to invest in that. We want to provide $5 million in I Love New York advertising for the Finger Lakes wines, Finger Lakes trails, Finger Lakes culinary experience, because this is such a beautiful part of the state with so many assets. I think if we just publicize, the more we publicize, the more people will come, the more business that we will generate. We're also going to organize a craft beverage week in New York City, where we're going to have the producers from the Finger Lakes come down and meet with the largest distributors and businesses and buyers in New York City. We're proposing on the tourism side something called the Empire State Trail. This is very cool. No other state has done it. 750 miles of pathway across the state. It's a paved pathway. You can run, you can hike, you can bike, and it goes literally from New York City to Canada, from Buffalo to Albany. Now, it builds on two trails that are there, the Erie Canal Way and what they call the Hudson River Valley Greenway. But it goes through the most historic, most beautiful parts of the state. So it's also a history trail, it's a nature trail, it's a wine trail, and it's organized segment by segment, region by region, all across the state. And I think it could really be very, very helpful in driving tourism. It's not that you have to do the full 750 miles, right? I'm sure Danny Wegman will, but like guys like me, how come I'll just do the Rochester segment, and talk to people who did the rest. But this is the existing parts of the trail now. We would fill in the rest. We would do it in 3 phases. The first phase is 72 miles, second 82, third is 196 because it does the whole North Country, which is a big stretch. But it's about tourism, which is about jobs, and again, no other state has it, and I think it would make us a national, if not an international, destination to organize our regions around this. One of the things we're doing upstate is we know what the economy was of yesterday. We want to identify the economy of tomorrow and grow it here. We're doing that all across the state. We did that very well with Nano in Albany. Nobody had ever heard of it. We got there first. Albany is now the International Nano Center. Buffalo, the largest solar panel manufacturer in the hemisphere. We have in Buffalo between Panasonic and Tesla. Here, we really believe that photonics is an industry that we can make Rochester the international capital of, because it builds on who you are and what you have, right? Finger Lakes was always the intellectual capital. Colleges, universities, STEM-related degrees, the infrastructure, the legacy of Xerox, etc. We've made great strides already. We're proposing in this budget the Photonics Challenge, which is a $10 million competition to attract entrepreneurs in a competition modeled after 43 North, which is what we did in Buffalo. The best photonics research ideas come here, tell us your idea, compete for an award, win the award, and set up your business here in Rochester. It brings all sorts of entrepreneurs in. $15 startups, $125,000 each, but it actually makes Rochester the center of discussion. We're also announcing today the state is investing $20 million in the Remade Institute at RIT, which is going to focus on waste reduction and recycling. We're very excited in this industry as a tangent, so congratulations to RIT. We talked about comprehensive development and making sure we're working for everyone in the poverty initiative. We want to further that with $20 million for supportive housing for the city to do housing and community development in the communities that need it. Clean water is a major issue all across the state. Locals literally don't have enough money in some places to fix the pipes. But water quality is also a big issue. We have had some frightening episodes across the state. This was a manufacturing state. There's a lot that's been left in the ground, which winds up in the groundwater. We're still discovering that there are certain chemicals that can be in groundwater that can wind up dangerous. We want to have the state-of-the-art testing and the state-of-the-art filtration. and that costs money, and that's what this $2 billion infrastructure is all about. Our children are drinking the water. Let's make sure the water is safe. And that's what we're going to do. The cost of prescription drugs, this is a national problem. We're going to try an approach that no state has done before. Certain drug companies exponentially increase the cost of prescription drugs. It's just short of extortion, in my opinion. We're going to set up a price review board for the state, and we will have a cap on how much we will pay for a drug in our Medicaid program, which is a very big purchaser. Once we set that cap, if that drug is sold in the private market, the excess beyond the price limit we set will be charged a 60% surcharge, which will go back to the consumers and the health companies. We have to stop these pharmaceutical companies. We have a heroin crisis in the state from one end to the other. And this budget sets up a comprehensive plan to combat drug abuse, from more law enforcement to more beds to insurance companies actually paying for treatment to high schools that allow a child to recover and continue to go to recovery. Now, yesterday the Senate Republicans said, in response to my budget, that I raised taxes $800 million next year. It's a little Albany doublespeak. It's not raising taxes, it's continuing the millionaires' tax, which I mentioned to you earlier. But I also mentioned if we lose the millionaires' tax, it's $800 million next year, it's $3.5 billion the year after, and it's a hole that we can't make up. That is going to be the debate in Albany on this budget. That is what you will hear between now and April. Those are the choices. You can extend the millionaire's tax, or if you do that, you have to eliminate any new state education aid because you can't afford to do both. This budget increases education $1 billion, about 4%. If we extend the millionaire's tax, we would have to wipe out the increase in education. There are 45,000 millionaires in this state. 50% are non-residents. So we're talking about half of that as residents. 3% live in upstate New York. If you're concerned about upstate New York, then you would be concerned about the people who live in upstate New York. Second choice, millionaire's tax extension, or the tax cut for the middle class that we talked about, which also costs $1 billion. Third choice is the millionaire's tax extension or the college affordability plan. You can't afford both. 80% of the families who live in upstate New York are under $125,000, which means 80% of the families will qualify for the free college tuition. And when you look at the numbers, it's not even close. Monroe County have 195 millionaires who, remember, will pay the same tax rate they pay currently. It just won't be dropped. 195 millionaires, you have 107,000 school children that would get $1 billion in extra aid. You have 145,000 middle-class families that would get a tax cut. You have 32,000 families that would get free college. That's the choice in this budget. And it's the same all across the state. Suffolk County, 1,000 millionaires, 240,000 public school students, 359,000 middle-class families, 63,000 families eligible for free college. Western New York, 300 millionaires versus 192,000 school students, 255,000 middle-class families, 68,000 families eligible for free college. How do you tell me that that is even a close call or even a choice? Same tax rate for millionaires, but a world of difference for children who could go to college, get a better public education. That's really the choice. You talk about cutting property taxes, bringing those local governments together in one room. There's tremendous opposition to that. Why? Because the local governments don't want to go and find ways to cooperate and go through the exercise. The county executives don't want the authority of putting the meeting together and putting a plan together and putting it on the ballot. So they are opposed to it and they're pushing back. I understand the difficulty, but I understand that upstate New York pays the highest property taxes in the United States of America, and if you don't do it, you're not going to do anything about property taxes. And frankly, even if it makes the political class uncomfortable, it is something that has to be done because taxpayers matter also at the end of the day. It's not just keeping the political class happy. The regional economic development councils that have worked so well, I want to fund them for another round at $750 million. Why? Because we're making up for all those decades that upstate New York was neglected. And we're investing and we're creating jobs and it's paying dividends. What they would rather do is let the politicians in Albany give out that money. Why? Because they want to turn it into political pork. I say, let Danny Wegman come up with a plan that generates jobs. He's a businessman. That's what he does. He knows the region. Bring the academics together, bring the business community together, and invest in jobs. The politicians want to say, no, let me hand out the check and cut the ribbon and use it for political pork like they did for many, many years. We want to reduce the cost of prescription drugs. The big pharmaceutical companies are dramatically opposed to this. They're making progress, a profit, and they are very powerful, and they are politically powerful, and they are very difficult on the other side. I sued them as Attorney General. Trust me, they make your life miserable. But people matter, and senior citizens matter, and senior citizens on fixed incomes matter. And they can't pay their rent and pay for the food and pay for the increase in drugs. So my bottom line message in this debate with Albany is I get it. I get the pressure on the other side. I've been on both sides of the table. But it's not even close. It's not even close. Millionaires pay the same tax. I get it. They're also the largest political donors in the state. And the Albany Senate doesn't want to make them unhappy. I get it. But then you're going to disappoint every school child in this state when you don't fund education. That's your choice. And every middle-class family that has been suffering under economic anxiety, and you're not going to give them a tax cut. I understand you don't want to make the local politicians unhappy with the property tax plan. Fine. But then you're going to continue having the highest property taxes in the United States, and don't complain when people say, I can't afford to live in this state anymore. Those are the choices. And at the end of the day, it's politics or people. It's political donors or the best interest of the people of this state. And when that is the choice to me, it's not even close. It's people over politics. Do the right thing by the people of the state. Do the right thing by the people who elected you. Do the right thing by the people who you took an oath of office to. And this is the time to do it, because the state has made great progress and we are poised to do even more. All the arrows are pointed in the right direction. This is not a government that sits up here and makes promises or plans or pledges. We are about action. We are about doing. I deliver on what I say I'm going to do. I am not here to talk about it. I am here to do it. And we are doing it. And it's tangible and it's real and it's all across the state. And you can see it and you can feel it and you can touch it and you can smell it. Accomplishments that people said could never be done, and they're being done all over the state, faster, better than ever before. And they're making this state a better state. You want to be ready for the new economy? You need new airports. Those are the new front doors to business. We're doing it in Syracuse. We're doing it in Long Island. We're going to have a beauty here in Rochester. Elmira Corning, we're building a new airport. Plattsburgh, we're building a new airport. New rail station in Schenectady. New Tappan Zee Bridge. New Penn Station, New York City. The most heavily traveled tourist destination in the hemisphere is Penn Station. New Long Island Railroad concourse, a new convention center in Albany. All the bridges in New York City are going to be illuminated with different color lights that are choreographed to music and choreographed to each other. No city in the nation has done this. It's going to be a spectacle that will draw tourists internationally. We're bringing in modern electronics. We're putting cashless tolling on the thruway. We invested in the State Fair in Syracuse. Last year, we had an all-time attendance high at the New York State Fair, and we're doing even more. We're bringing jobs up into the North Country. We announced this year we're going to invest in Whiteface and Gore Mountain to bring more tourism up to the North Country, because there's no reason to go to any other state. We're doing Comedy Center in Jamestown. Buffalo, New York has Panasonic and Tesla. If you said that to someone 10 years ago, they would have laughed at you. So all the arrows are pointed in the up direction. We just have to keep it going. We have to do it this year with this budget and this plan. And remember what the key to our success was. We said that this state is not upstate and downstate. It is one state. And when you neglected upstate, you hurt downstate, because we are one economy. And when we understand that we are one, and there is no division and there is no separation, that is the formula for success. It's true about upstate and downstate. It's also true about political parties. We're not Democrats. We're not Republicans. We're not going to play that partisan game that you see developing in Washington. We're not going to do gridlock. We're not going to make political points at each other's expense. We're going to put the politics aside, because at the end of the day, we're not Democrats and Republicans first. We're New Yorkers first. And we don't work for political parties. We work for the people of this state. And if we do the right thing by the people of this state, you're going to see this state continue to grow. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Governor Cuomo. What the governor has unveiled today is truly transformative for Rochester and will ensure our continued job growth and prosperity. Thank you all for coming. Let's give the governor another big round of applause and thank him for being the governor that cares about upstate New York and Rochester.